All right, so the Nintendo Switch 2 isn't just out. It's finally caught up to, the big kids. This thing isn't just a cute handheld with HDMI anymore. It's actually powerful. In the handheld mode, you're getting 1080p at 120 hertz, but in docked mode, you're finally getting that full 4K at 60 frames per second, HDR10, variable refresh rates, auto low latency mode, all of that stuff is there. And in the TV world, all of these things are ingredients to what makes up a good quality set. So it kind of begs the question, now that the Switch 2 is here, is it finally time for you to upgrade your TV along with it? And listen, I get it, TVs are super confusing, but hi, I'm your friend JD, that's what I'm here for. You got things like OLEDs, QLEDs, QD OLEDs, mini LEDs, and each of these TV brands are just sort of further adding to the confusion by referring to each one of these TV techs by a completely different acronym. So, that's fun. And I tested a ton of TVs. So this list is built for one mission and one mission only, making sure that your new shiny Switch 2 looks and feels incredible without having to waste money on any features that you won't use at all. But before we get into the specific TV tech and specific model recommendations that I have for you, let's first talk about what I think are bare minimums for your TV if you want to experience the Switch 2's, full potential. The TV needs to be 4K with at minimum 60 hertz, and ideally you'd want things like VRR and HDR10. It needs to have low input lag, and you want a set that has some pretty decent motion handling now that the games are finally running smoother and look a lot sharper. Because this isn't the original Switch anymore. If you're buying a new TV, obviously you want to have something that shows off what this new console can do. So let's go ahead and start with those budget options. If you're just looking for something solid for maybe a bedroom or dorm room, or you want to just hook your Switch up to your kids room, then this is where you're going to be looking. The TCL Q6, the 2024 model, is a really great option under $500. It's not going to blow your socks off with HDR, but it does have 120 hertz support, VRR, and the input lag is certainly low enough to keep Mario Kart and Smash looking really nice and smooth. So if you have a niece and nephew like I do who ruthlessly destroy you in both of those games, hey, at least our losses are going to look really nice and fluid on screen. And the colors on the TCL Q6 are certainly vibrant enough to make Nintendo games pop. It's surprisingly responsive for the price, and this is probably going to be true for a lot of QLED TVs out there over the last several years. I mean, it is a Nintendo console. Odds are much of the games you will play are just going to be known for being sort of explosions of color, and showing vibrant colors are sort of QLED's specialty. And QLED and Nintendo games, and they sort of handshake another, this feels normal. Even the models that people may consider on the low end still have some really impressive offerings. So casual gamers are going to find the TCL Q6 and other similar QLED TVs more than good enough. But like Mario, there are levels within this QLED game. So if you want to spend just a little bit more and you want to go up to the Hisense U7H. It does get brighter, so if the room that you want to put this TV in does have a lot of extra light, that extra brightness does really help in handling the reflections from, the sun. It does still support 4K 60 hertz with ALLM and VRR. It's more than enough of a TV for the Switch 2 players, and more than enough TV than you'd expect for the price. Also worth mentioning in this class is the LG QLED 85T. It's another great QLED TV which gives you access to tons of brightness, really great contrast, 120 hertz, ALLM, VRR, and FreeSync, as well as LG's really great game optimizer features. It is a really phenomenal set for the price. All right, so now let's say that you want something a bit nicer, or maybe you already own a QLED TV and you're looking for that step up. Maybe this is your main room TV and you're sharing it with a PS5 or an Xbox as well. So let's talk mini LEDs. This is sort of the sweet spot for a lot of people, and I would argue for actually most people. You get brighter screens, better contrast, smoother gaming without jumping into the very deep waters that is OLED pricing. The LG QLED 90T is one of the most well-rounded TVs within this space. Not to be confused with the LG QLED 85T that I just mentioned. The 80 series are QLEDs, the 90 series are mini LEDs. Again, it's confusing. I'm here to help. With the 90T, you get mini LED backlighting for deep blacks and really strong HDR. You get a 120 hertz panel and LG's famous game optimizer that provides a lot of extra features in an accessible menu, so you can sort of dial in your gaming experience exactly how you want without having to leave the game. Sony's X95L is also a really good option. It is a few years old, but they're still very, very popular, and for good reason. At the time that it released, I thought that it was the best mini LED that's ever been made. It's especially good at motion handling, which is perfect for faster paced games like maybe like F-Zero or Metroid Prime 4. The image looks incredible. You get a ton of brightness. The contrast is excellent, and straight out of the box, it just looks really, really clean. There's very little setup or tweaking needed to the picture. Typically with mini LEDs, they really benefit from spending time in the picture settings and tweaking them to really bring out that full potential, but not with the X95L. You just take it out, turn it on, and you are good to go. I think the only thing that I adjusted on that set was the contrast a little bit, but I really doubt that it actually needed it. I'm just very obnoxious when it comes to contrast on my TVs. Now, if you really have your heart set on mini LED as a TV technology and you want the best of the best, then Sony does have a successor to the X95L, and that is the Bravia 9. For me, this is one of like the top 2 mini LED sets right now. The other one is the TCL QM8K QD mini LED. It's a lot to say. I have a hard time deciding definitively like which one is on the top, but both are so good. But again, if you want the best of the best in the mini LED space, don't really just think too much about it. Just either get the TCL QM8K or the Sony Bravia 9. But if you're sitting here like, no man, absolutely not. I want the absolute best visuals for my brand new sweet baby Switch 2, and you are ready to pay a little bit more, then you're gonna wanna upgrade to the first class of TV tech, OLED and QD OLED. Let's start with the LG B5 and C5. These are both the entry-level and the mid-tier OLED models from LG respectively. Both of these will support 4K 120Hz. They'll both have excellent HDR performance, and you get that OLED signature perfect black and infinite contrast. The difference between these two are largely kind of comes down to overall brightness. The B4 is slightly dimmer and slightly cheaper, but it's still absolutely incredible, especially if you're already planning on putting this TV in like a dark or dimly lit room. The C4, however, will get you that extra brightness and a little bit extra HDR punch. Both will of course have LG's game optimizer dashboard, which again is really great for, quick tuning without diving into settings and menus to dial in your game. But if you want to go even higher, LG just dropped the G5. This is their top level flagship OLED. This replaces the G4, and it's better in just about every way. It is noticeably brighter, over 2000 nits of peak HDR brightness, which lots of TVs have great peak brightness for HDR content, but the G5 also has a ton of brightness with SDR content, which is most of the content that you'll watch normally when you're not gaming. And that's sort of the bigger deal. All of this is thanks to its new 4-stack RGB tandem OLED panel, which will give you brighter and more accurate colors. It gives you a longer lifespan and still keeps all of the gamer-focused features like G-Sync, VRR, and less than a 0.1 millisecond response time, as well as a HDMI 2.1 on all 4 of its ports. LG even boosted the refresh rate up to 144 Hz, so if your Switch ever would magically unlock higher refresh rates down the road, I don't really see that happening, but if you're a PC gamer, this is a really great dual purpose for you. It's slim, it's stunning, and honestly, it just looks really incredible on a wall. Now, it is really expensive, but it's also one of the best TVs of 2025, so naturally, it's going to come at a price. Now, if you do lean more towards Samsung, make sure you check out the S90D or the S95D, the S95D being that high-end flagship. These are QD OLEDs, which means that you will get all the benefits of OLED with their perfect contrast, but even more vibrant color and higher overall color brightness. The S90D is definitely the better value. It gets about 95% of that flagship experience at a much more reasonable price. The S95D is brighter, it's bolder, and just makes everything really pop. Games like Tears of the Kingdom, Mario Kart, or even, Donkey Kong are going to look absolutely stunning on either of those sets. Now, if none of those recommendations sound good enough and you just completely lost all touch with reality and you want to build the ultimate living room that kind of looks like a tech demo, then this enormous TV behind me is what you need. This is the LG M3. This is a 98-inch wireless OLED that beams a video signal from a separate box with 0 visible cables. There's no HDMI cords, there's no mess, it's just a giant floating OLED screen up on your wall or on these 2 stands that actually are a lot bigger than they look. Then this is your dream TV. It does pump out 4K HDR at 120 Hz, and you would think that there would be like a noticeable lag because, it's wireless HDMI, but to my surprise, there was no perceivable lag that I could find whatsoever. And I don't know, it's magic, it's a giant magic TV, it's completely overkill, it costs like 25 grand, but I do love her, so if you think that your Switch 2 deserves a throne, this is the one to get. Okay, So let's wrap all this up with a little recap just in case that, you weren't taking notes, for shame. If you got a Switch 2 and you're TV shopping, here's what to prioritize. It needs to be 4K with at least 60 Hertz. It needs to have HDR10 support, VRR, and low input lag. Anything below like 40 milliseconds input lag and you'll be perfectly fine. You'll notice absolutely nothing. If you want that competitive advantage, then maybe look for something that's under 15 milliseconds. Bonus points if it has 120 Hertz refresh rate, especially, if you have like other consoles that already support that natively. And if you want to take full advantage of the Switch 2's DLSS, then make sure that your TV has some decent upscaling features. So with all that said, what are my top TV picks? If you're looking for something around that $500 price point, then the TCL Q6 or the Hisense U7H are gonna be what you wanna look at. For the sweet spot mid-range, LG QLED 85, the TCL QM8K, or the Sony Bravia 9. If you want the best overall OLED for most people, LG C5 or the Samsung S90D. But if you want that top tier, the LG G5 or the Samsung S95D. And if you've got way too much money, you love clean walls, and you like life a little pinkies up, then that LG M3 is that crown that I know that you want to wear. But no matter which one you get, the Switch 2 finally gives Nintendo games the hardware that they deserve. So make sure that your TV isn't the thing that's holding it back. So let me know in the comments which one that you're eyeing, or if you're out there still using a TV that says, like HD ready and takes like 12 seconds to change inputs. Listen, there's absolutely no shame coming from me, but if that's you and you're ready for an upgrade, hopefully now you have all the information that you need to make the right choice. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.